Good evening. We begin tonight with a question about the President of the United States and obstruction of justice. Namely, can the President of the United States obstruct justice if he attempts to shut down an FBI investigation into someone he knows has committed a crime? It's a question that's front and center tonight because of what the President seemed to admit in a tweet over the weekend and what the President's attorney said about it today. Former President Richard Nixon didn't seem to believe a president could be accused of obstructing justice. Here's what he said to David Frost in the spring of 1977.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
So the fact that Richard Nixon said this as an ex-president forced out of office, named by a grand jury as an unindicted conspirator in the Watergate affair, and having been nearly impeached, maybe that should tell you how well that argument went over at the time. Yet it is being revived today over this presidential tweet from Saturday morning. Quote, "I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI. He has pled guilty to those lies. It is a shame because his actions during the transition were lawful. There was nothing to hide." Now that is a stunning tweet because until that tweet was sent, as far as the public knew, the president fired National Security Advisor Michael Flynn for lying to Vice President Pence about contact with the Russians. Yet the tweet says, and let's just show it again, "I had to fire General Flynn because he lied to the vice president and the FBI." Now, lying to the vice president is certainly ill-advised, but look, vice presidents are probably used to that sort of thing, and it's not illegal. The second, lying to the FBI, that is a felony. So this tweet suggests that when the president fired General Flynn, he knew or had reason to believe that Flynn had lied to the FBI, thereby committing a crime. That tweet suggests that when President Trump had dinner on the 27th of January with then FBI Director James Comey, and according to Comey, asked him for his loyalty, that means that the president knew or had reason to believe on that night that the National Security Advisor had committed a crime. This tweet also suggests that on February 14th, when Comey says the president asked him to drop the FBI investigation into Flynn, the president knew or had reason to believe that Flynn had lied to Comey's agents, committing a crime. And now we have new CNN reporting that says the president was in fact advised to that effect. How did the White House come to know that Flynn had lied? Well, remember Sally Yates, the acting attorney general at the time. On the 26th of January, Yates made an urgent appointment to brief White House counsel Don McGahn about what she knew of Flynn's contact with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak and how it contradicted what Vice President Pence had said about it publicly. She spoke about it exclusively with me, though she declined to give specifics. When were you first made aware that General Flynn was lying about his interactions with the Russian ambassador?
Well, first let me say, and I know that this may seem kind of artificial to folks, I can't really talk about what General Flynn's underlying conduct was because that's based on classified information.
Can you say when you were made aware about an issue with his underlying conduct?
It was in the early part of January where we first got some indication about what he had been involved in, and then sort of the middle part of January when there were false statements that started coming out of the White House based on misrepresentations he had made to people there.
So 2 weeks went by after Yates spoke to the White House before Flynn was forced out for lying to the vice president about his contacts with Russians. That's the reason the White House said they fired Flynn. And now our source, a source familiar with the matter, tells us that Don McGahn, after speaking with Yates, briefed the president, telling him that based on his conversation with Yates, he believed Flynn had not told the truth in his interview with the FBI. Now, we don't know the precise date, but we do know it happened and that it happened in January. Again, this means that when the president allegedly asked James Comey to go easy on Flynn, he may have known or at least had reason to believe that Flynn had committed a felony. And that means this tweet on Saturday could provide additional evidence he obstructed justice, which may explain why the White House, especially the president's personal attorney, John Dowd, has been doing such damage control regarding that individual tweet. Dowd first saying that the part in the tweet referring to lying to the FBI wasn't a new admission, but instead was merely paraphrasing what was in White House attorney Ty Cobb's statement about General Flynn's guilty plea. Then there was another explanation. Dowd said that actually he, not the president, was the one who wrote the tweet, acknowledging it was sloppily worded. Well, then today, the he didn't write it narrative seemed to have kind of been put aside. The new narrative isn't only that President Trump didn't obstruct justice, it is, to borrow from Richard Nixon 4 decades ago, that a president cannot obstruct justice. Mr. Dowd telling the news site Axios, the, quote, "president cannot obstruct justice because he's the chief law enforcement officer under the Constitution's Article 2 and has every right to express his view of any case.